The lights dimmed inside the EFC Apex Arena as the announcer's voice boomed, signaling the start of a bout that would become folklore in women's MMA. Juliet Yuka, known as the Nigerian Nightmare, made her way to the cage with a terrifying calm. Her stare was laser-focused, shoulders relaxed, fists loose. Across from her, South Africa's Crystal Van Wyk bounced to the beat of her entrance music. Energized, the crowd roaring her name. But the noise couldn't drown out the growing tension in the air. This wasn't just a fight. It was a meeting of styles, of cultures, of power versus finesse. And it would unfold across 3 rounds of brutality, defiance, and ultimately, a performance that fans would talk about for years. Juliet came into the fight undefeated with a string of vicious finishes. Her raw power, combined with relentless pressure, had earned her the nickname. Crystal, on the other hand, was a tactician, sharp, fast, and unafraid of the pocket. On paper, it was striker versus striker. In reality, it was predator versus storm. Round 1 started at a blistering pace. Juliet wasted no time. She stormed the center of the cage and threw heavy leg kicks that echoed through the arena. Crystal answered with check hooks and quick footwork, staying mobile. The first 2 minutes were a clinic in control from Juliet. Every shot she landed thudded. A right hand cracked Crystal's temple and had her wobbling early. But Van Wyk was all heart. She bit down on her mouth guard, circled out, and fired back with a spinning back kick to the body. Juliet didn't flinch. She charged in, clinched, and ragdolled Crystal to the canvas. From top position, she rained down elbows. Crystal managed to tie her up in half guard, buying precious seconds. The bell rang with Juliet on top, blood from a small cut trickling down Crystal's cheek. Round 2 opened with more of the same pressure. Juliet cut off the cage expertly, trapping Crystal against the fence. But the South African had adjustments. She landed sharp knees in the clinch and even managed to reverse position, pushing Juliet back. For a moment, it looked like momentum was shifting. Then Juliet exploded with a right hand that changed everything. It slammed into Crystal's jaw. Down she went. Juliet pounced, fists flying. Somehow, Crystal survived. She wrapped up Juliet's leg and held on as the ref loomed. They stood again. Juliet smiled. The final minute of the round saw both women exchanging bombs in the center of the cage. Juliet's power, Crystal's speed. It was violence wrapped in art. As the horn sounded, the crowd gave a standing ovation. The fight wasn't over, but it had already become something legendary. Round 3 was a war. Juliet came out a little slower, conserving energy. Crystal, knowing she needed a finish, went all in. She threw spinning back fists, elbows in the clinch, and a nasty head kick that barely missed. Juliet was staggered once, but recovered instantly. She walked through the fire. Every punch Crystal landed was met with a harder, heavier shot from Juliet. Then came the finish. Juliet feinted a low kick, drew Crystal's guard down, and launched a left hook that flattened her. Crystal crumbled to the mat. Juliet stood over her, not punching. The ref waved it off. KO. The arena erupted. Juliet climbed the cage wall and threw her fists into the air. Fans screamed her name. Nigerian Nightmare, they chanted. Blood streaked her face, but her expression was serene. Crystal sat up with help from her corner, nodding in respect. Post-fight, Juliet said simply, "I came here to remind people why I fight. Not just to win, but to dominate. Social media exploded. Highlights from the fight went viral within minutes. Fighters from across the globe praised both women. Dana White even reposted the KO clip, calling it one of the best finishes of the year. Juliet Euchre had not only won, she'd cemented her name in EFC history. And for Crystal Van Wyck, despite the loss, her stock rose. Her heart, toughness, and technique won over fans worldwide. The EFC had hosted countless bangers, but this was something else entirely. It was an exorcism of fear, a trial by fire, and two warriors left a piece of their soul inside that cage. Juliet Euchre versus Crystal Van Wyck redefined what it meant to go to war. It wasn't just a full fight, it was a full story. A bloody, beautiful, unforgettable 1A night like this doesn't happen often. Not in the EFC, not anywhere. The cage under the Johannesburg lights turned into a crucible for two of the most dangerous women in MMA. Juliet, the Nigerian nightmare. Euchre and South Africa's Crystal Van Wyck didn't just fight, they detonated by the time the first round ended. Fans already knew they were witnessing something historic. From the walkouts, Juliet's silent, focused march to the cage, contrasted by Crystal's high energy, bounce and fearless swagger. It was clear the stakes were higher than belts or rankings. This was personal. This was a test of identity, pride, and survival. Juliet entered undefeated, her reputation forged in knockouts and unrelenting pace. Her nickname wasn't just marketing, it was prophecy. Crystal Van Wyck, though, was no lamb to the slaughter. Known for her laser-precise striking and her refusal to back down, she was here to rewrite the narrative. And for 3 rounds, they painted the canvas with fury. Round 1 was nuclear. Juliet came out with a vengeance, blasting Crystal with calf kicks and looping hooks that roared through the arena. Every shot was meant to end the night. Crystal backpedaled, absorbing, calculating, slipping punches and firing back sharp counters that clipped Juliet's chin more than once. But Juliet's pressure didn't fade, it built. Midway through the round, Juliet trapped Crystal against the fence and unleashed elbows, knees, body shots. Crystal tried to circle out, but Juliet clinched and threw her to the mat. The ground and pound that followed was merciless. Juliet dropped elbows that cracked against bone. The ref hovered, ready to stop it, but Crystal held on somehow. Round 2 began with urgency from Crystal. She switched stances, used lateral movement, and cracked Juliet with a spinning back fist that stunned the Nigerian powerhouse. The crowd gasped. Crystal pressed forward, mixing kicks and combinations with surgical precision. For a moment, Juliet looked human. She backed up. That didn't last. Juliet absorbed the barrage, smiled through the blood, and fired a right hand. That made the entire front row jump. It sent Crystal staggering. Juliet moved in for the kill, but Crystal's footwork saved her. She clinched, knees flying. Juliet reversed and slammed her to the mat again. This time, Juliet passed to mount. The elbows came again, blood spattered. Crystal's corner screamed for movement. Somehow, with seconds left in the round, she bridged, reversed, and stood. The crowd erupted. Round 3, war zone. Juliet's face was marked, her ribs bruised. Crystal's left eye was swelling shut. They stood in the center and traded everything they had left. Punches, elbows, knees, neither giving an inch. Every exchange drew screams from the crowd. Every strike could have ended it. Then, the climax. Juliet fainted low, then spun, a back elbow, It crashed into Crystal's temple. The sound alone silenced the crowd. Crystal crumpled, out cold. Juliet stood above her, fists clenched, body shaking. The ref waved it off. KO, pure, brutal. Final dot. Juliet Yuka climbed the cage, arms raised. The Nigerian flag waved in the background as the crowd chanted her name.